All right, this is page 3 of the Unit 2 pre-assessment for Bridges Grade 5. Those of you who have just completed page 1 and page 2, we're now on page 3. So number 9 says, Andrea worked out by walking and running on a park trail. She walked 2/5 of the trail and then ran 1/4 of the trail. Okay, so that's kind of our problem, and then we have to answer these questions. How much of the trail had she covered? Show your work. Well, if we know that she first walked, whoops, I have the wrong page here. If we know that she first walked 2/5 of the trail, so here we can kind of make our trail. I just made a long line. And if I say this is about 2/5, she walked this part, then she ran 1/4, okay, or 1/4. So we need to know how much did she go in all? How much of the trail had she covered? This is the same thing as in all. So we have 2/5 and 1/4. So what I did here was do a ratio table so I can have common denominators. So here I have my 2/5 and my 1/4 to start, my 2/5 here and my 1/4 here, and I went ahead and I doubled it. So I got 4/10, then I doubled again and I got 8/20. Over here, I went ahead and doubled it until I could try and get 10 or 20, so I doubled and got 2/8, doubled again and got 4/10. So if I double this again, whoops, if I double it again, I would get 8, and this would be way more than 20. I would end up with what? 16, and 16 would be 32. Okay, and now we can see that 32 is way bigger than 20, so that's not going to work. So instead, I'm going to kind of play with my numbers and add some columns. So I know that 16 plus 4 would get me 20. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 1/4 and the 4/16. So 1 and 4 is 5, and 4 and 16 is 20. So now I have 8/20 and 5/20. So 1/4 is now 8/20. And my 2/5 is now, whoops, that's wrong. Nope, my 1/4 is 5/20. Sorry, that was a mistake. Because here's my 1/4, and I've now found an equivalent fraction to be 5/20. And this was my 2/5, and my equivalent fraction for this one is 8/20. Okay, so now I've changed those, and now they have common denominators. So how much in all? Well, if I have 8/20 plus 5/20, I would get 13/20 for problem A. B, did Andrea walk farther or run farther? Now all I'm doing is comparing. Okay, so she walked 8/20 and she ran 5/20. So which one is bigger? The bigger one is the 8/20. So she walked farther than she ran. Okay, and then we have problem C. How much farther? Ooh, so the first time we had to look at in all. This one we want to know how much farther, so we're finding the difference. So when we find the difference, we want to subtract. And in all, we want to add them all together. So now we have to subtract. So we already have our common denominators, so now we just change the sign. 8/20 minus 5/20 equals 3/20. So 3/20 of the 3/20 farther. Okay. All right, moving on to the last problem here, number 10. David ran half a mile down at the high school track and then walked 1/3 of a mile. So we're going to kind of draw a little track here like we did last time. So he went 1/2 of a mile and then 1/3 of a mile. And it says he ran the half mile. So I'm going to write an R here so we don't forget. And this one, he walked, I believe. Yep. And then he walked a third. So I'm going to put a W so we know that means walked. Now again, we have to use the ratio table to get our common denominator. So if I double this one, I get 6, and that would be 2. Well, I know that 2 times 3 is 6, so instead of doubling this, I'm just going to multiply it by 3. So then I get 6, and I multiply whatever I do to the bottom. I have to do the top. So now I have 3/6 and 2/6. So instead of 1/2, I now have 3/6. And on here, I now have 2/6. Okay, so my first question is, how far did David go in all? Choose the best estimate. Ooh, well, 3/6 and 2/6. I'm going to say it's not quite a mile. Is it more than half a mile but less than a whole? Or is it less than half a mile? Well, if he ran half of a mile, there's no way that it can be this one. It could be either one of these. But I know that 1/3 of a mile is less than half, and half plus less than a half is going to be less than a mile. So it can't be this one. My answer is more than half but less than a whole. How far did David go in all? Well, we just used our ratio table here, and now in all we can do 3/6 plus 2/6 equals 5/6 miles in all. So now here we can write 5/6 miles in all. And of course you would show all your work on this paper. The last one, when Sarah solved this problem, she got 2/5 of a mile for her answer. Is this a reasonable answer? Why or why not? Well, she got 2/5 and we got 5/6. So what do you think she might have done? Let's see. 5/6, and she got 2/5. Is there any way that these can be the same? 8/20. 10 plus, if I add these two together, I'm going to get 30 and 12. 12/30. Can I make 6 go to 30? Yes, I can. I can times it by 5. And I can times this one by 5. 25/30. Is that anywhere close? No, it is not a reasonable answer. So we would say no, it is not reasonable. And if you look closely, what I think that she might have done, if she got 2/5, I think she took 1/2 plus 1/3, and she added the top and the bottom, which is not how we add fractions. So she added the numerator and the denominator instead of finding a common denominator. So her answer is not reasonable. And that's it for the Unit 2 pre-assessment.